Okay, I started recording.
Okay, please.
Okay, so let's get started. So I published the agenda. So first bullet is discuss the container runtime. I don't know if there's any more to say. I think we should probably have a formal decision about this, but maybe we need to think more about it, or what do you think?
So Frederick-san, so I made a presentation. Can I share the screen?
Sure.
Okay. So I do the homework about the previous TV call, and so at first, so iPro's stakeholder accepted the bus broker to introduce to the camera, and so however, so it seems so the further investigation is needed for confirming the behavior on the camera device. And so far, so the iPro R&D members confirmed the behavior with the latest rollout. However, so there is some problem. Therefore, so Han-san, please explain the problem about introducing the DBus broker. Is it okay?
Yes. If I remember that from the last TB course that we, Frederick actually they talk about the debug broker, but when I check the new GitLab, the GitLab, and I saw that the debug daemons. So I'm quite confused because in my point of view that debug brokers and debug daemons is a different.
Yeah. So let me step in. I made a proof of concept implementation. So I have a look at debug broker, and the problem with using debug broker is that so the debug broker is the basic debug daemon.
Yes.
But it doesn't it can't start a socket itself. So it relies on a launcher to create a socket and set up some basic housekeeping things. So, and that's done in the debug broker case. It's done by a debug launcher, which also does a lot of other things like integration with systemd and things that we don't want. So I started coding a minimal launcher, but then I thought maybe I can just use the old debug daemon. because that one doesn't have integration with systemd and so on. So I just took the old dbus daemon and made a container that starts dbus daemon, and so I made a small proof of concept, and it was able to run dbus daemon and on a system that didn't have dbus, and then Laraad could attach to the socket, and then a client could talk to Laraad over this socket. So the proof of concept was successful. However, I didn't use dbus broker. I used the old implementation, dbus daemon.
Yes, but after this meeting, so we will go to the conclusion of which one we're gonna use, dbus broker or dbus daemon.
I think the easiest is to use dbus daemon. The dbus daemon is actually smaller than the dbus broker. The binary is just around 300K. But the container itself, it will be around 5 megabytes because of the dependencies to libc and other libraries. So probably the best, if you want to make small binary, is to include it inside of the Laraad container.
Yes, okay, I got it.
Okay. Okay, move to the next topic. So, what are the mandatory features of video API based on OpenCP for iPro? So, I confirmed this item with iPro internal members, and as a result, the get set resolution and rotation, resize, and movie JPEG encode, YB to RGB convert, still image capture, and convert from plasma to packed pixel, and multiple input supported in inference interface. So maybe they are general requirements. So I would like to confirm the Hikvision's explanation about the video API radar. And in addition, so we are discussing about video API. However, so how about other APIs, for example, audio or peripheral and so on? Frederick-san, do you have any opinion?
Yeah, we have talked about this at different times. However, we have not, to my knowledge, done included it in objectives yet. So, but if this is important, I think each company probably should list what APIs they believe are fundamental for the SDK. So audio could be one. I think also something like a overlay API. Let's say you have an application that generates metadata like bounding boxes and things. Maybe you want to create an overlay on the video with that. So a standardized overlay API, I think, is something that could be really useful.
Okay. After that, so let's build a consensus about the APIs. Okay. And so finally, so how different are the memory consumption about the container runtime? Container D, CRI-O, and RunC and CRun. Could you please explain about this part, Han-san?
Yeah. Okay. So see, we create a comparisons between the container D and the cryo in the case-based cluster, and in here on the container D, and we will want to be fair with when we do the comparisons. So we create a example that we run the container D and cryo both using the runcs container runtime, and the next is that we want to compare the resource consumption between the runc and C-runs, but we cannot config to make the container D working with C-run yet, because and I think the container D, they require a intermediate layers, the container D shim to communicate with the low-level container runtime, like a C-run or runc. But basically to look at this table, that you can see that a system using the container D with the runcs compared with the cryos with runc that is consume more resource than is about the 41 megabytes, and with the different with the system using the cryos with the low level container runtime runc and C-run, is that the system using the runc will took more resource than the C-run system, and it's around the 12 megabytes. So in totally, a system with the container D and runcs compared with the system using the cryo and C-run, we took the overall more than 50 megabytes. So here is our first comparisons between the container D and cryo. So so we can have the first overview, the difference in the resource consumption between the container D and cryos, and I think we can have the better choice when we can try to use the cryo instead of container D to reduce the resource consumptions. Yeah, so.
Thank you, Han-san. So do you have any question about this part?
I think the main question is probably not which binaries to use, rather which APIs to use. So the question is if we are standardizing, which ecosystem we are standardizing around. Is it CRI or Docker?
I think we use CRI ecosystem.
Yeah, so I think that should be the question, which API. So I think the formal decision we should take is which ecosystem we are targeting, and from our, at least from Axis side, we are not so much interested in running Kubernetes on the edge. We want to be able to use the API directly, not. So the question is if CRI is usable from other clients than Kubernetes, like for just deploying and managing containers without having K3s.
So Frederickson, so our purpose is to use the OCI image in common between cloud site and the edge, and so between each companies. Therefore, so even if so API is different, so maybe the common OCI image can be shared. Therefore, so far, we are discussing to unify the API. However, for example, Container D is surely de facto standard. On the other hand, Cryo is the new one, and the memory size can be decreased, as you see. Therefore, both of them are good for the some company. Therefore, I think the several API should be introduced to the Unimatrix. How do you feel?
No, I don't think. I think we should target one APIs. Otherwise, the choices are too. So there should be one API, and that could be implemented by different binaries. So, for example, Containerd also supports CRI if you have a plugin. So the question is if the question is which API we see as standard. I don't think we should. The standard is okay. We support both Containerd and CRI and Podman or whatever. I don't think it's good to. It doesn't promote interoperability if we have many APIs.
But are we only targeting Kubernetes-based orchestration, or are we targeting Docker as well? That is the main question, I believe. Because CRI only is really targeting only Kubernetes. So, but if we choose CRI, we are limiting to Kubernetes orchestration. Containerd supports both Kubernetes and Docker orchestration. So it depends on which communities are we targeting with Unimatrix.
But Containerd can support CRI by using some wrapper.
Yes, plugins.
If it's true, maybe CRI is good for the Unimatrix.
But then you're not targeting Docker community. So that's the worry we have if we require using Kubernetes for orchestration only. I don't know really what impact that would have on Unimatrix adoption. Do you have any idea, Frederick, or others?
The question is, I'm not so familiar with the CRI APIs. So the question is, for example, is it possible to use CRI with I mean, in our case, maybe if we want to use Ansible for container management, is it possible to use CRI in combination with Ansible? I'm not sure.
No, the only thing I read is CRI is almost exclusively used in conjunction with Kubernetes. So, but of course, if you develop something yourself, you could do something for Ansible that makes it compatible, but then you have to develop it. You can't rely on other parts. So what about the other companies? What do you think about this orchestration decision? If we are only targeting Kubernetes, or we're targeting both Docker, Kubernetes, and Ansible, for example?
Anyone from Hike Vision wants to answer?
Yes, from my point of view, we first should specify the image format, and then maybe it's hard to support the Kubernetes APIs to do the management of the image. We don't consider the kube edge anymore.
Kube Edge is also Kubernetes, right? So it's similar to K3s. Yeah. But it has some extra features like can handle loss of the master and stuff like that.
Okay, no strong opinion.
It's hard to make a decision between CRI and Containerd without having a good feeling about which orchestration methods we want to support within Unimatrix. And Axis today, we feel that Kubernetes might be limiting just support at this stage, since we could have a lot of opportunities with partners that also are using other orchestration tools.
Yeah, we at this time we feel that Kubernetes is too big to run on the edge for most devices. I mean, for certain devices it's possible, but the majority of devices, I would say no.
So, but Kubernetes is long-term, as I see it, and in shorter term, maybe you need support others as well.
So that's why I'm thinking of if CRI is usable just as an API. But we need more investigation on this, and probably this is going to take quite some time, I would say.
But is it critical to decide at this stage? Could we focus on the other APIs, because changing between CRI and Containerd is maybe not a big deal?
Yeah, I think for the reference implementation, it should use Containerd anyway, since that is the de facto standard. And then we could use there's a plugin for CRI in Containerd.
Yeah, and if iPro is only using Kubernetes as orchestration, they could easily,
So far,
you could use CRI in your implementation, but the reference implementation can still be Containerd. So if the reference implementation is Containerd, the reference implementation will support Docker and Ansible and other things. But if your own company implementation is only using Kubernetes, then you could switch to CRI and it shouldn't affect anything. Or, Fredrik?
Yeah, but I think from our perspective, it's more about also what, as this is like an ecosystem, I would say, which what our partners prefer to use. And Docker is quite well accepted ecosystem for managing containers. So that's, even if you're not using the Docker daemon itself on the edge, you're using the API like that is Containerd API.
So for interoperability purposes, Containerd, of course, is a better choice for the reference implementation. But for a specific company implementation, of course, you could limit that.
Maybe this is even something for the steering committee to discuss. It's about, yeah, it's more of a business decision, maybe. I mean, the governance board.
Yeah, we need to choose which ecosystems we will attract partners from.
But we should probably make a technical evaluation first of because I don't know enough about CRI. If it's usable outside of Kubernetes.
Yeah, maybe we should add something about which kind of partners we would attract and which ecosystems we are using.
Yeah, for our partners, I would say using Docker, even internally, is even if we have looked a lot at Kubernetes, the Docker community and the tools for Docker is quite well established and used.
It seems like we, at this point in time, we need to support both Kubernetes and Docker. If iPro is mainly going Kubernetes and Axis is wanting to support Docker as well, we need to have both in Unimatrix.
I think, yeah, but probably that's not a good decision. I mean, there should be one main container management API, I would say.
Yeah, it depends on if we are talking about being interoperable with other ecosystems or we are trying to build an ecosystem. So that's different ways to see it. Do we need to support the orchestration mechanism that our partners are using, or could we mandate that you need to use this? I'm not sure which way to go. If you go to someone who would like to incorporate cameras into existing big systems, they might already have chosen between Docker and Kubernetes. And they want to integrate our products or any of our member companies' products in the system. Then you can't mandate orchestration that they don't currently use.
Yeah, I think maybe, as I said, we should do is technical evaluation. But from our side, it's probably going to take a while. So I would say we can defer this decision maybe at least a month. Probably more since now it's summer holidays. So I would say maybe 2 months.
But of course, if we go for CRI and Kubernetes, then the Cryo, as iPro show, is more efficient. So if we are using only CRI over Kubernetes, then that's more efficient. That's clear.
Yeah, but if you have that huge Kubernetes agent anyway, so talking about 10 megabytes difference, it's like if the Kubernetes agent is 300 megabytes, it's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, maybe we should include if you're choosing Kubernetes and the CRI, the memory footprint, and compare that with using Containerd and orchestration using Docker.
I mean, our strategy is to kind of limit the what's needed on the edge to basically Containerd and Runc, and then the orchestration, if you use Ansible, doesn't need any specific agent running.
But there are different use cases, of course. So when using Ansible and Containerd, we are saying we don't need to do load balancing and other stuff that Kubernetes is doing. So from our point of view, Ansible and Containerd would solve the issues we have at this point in time to distribute the applications. I don't know if I see it differently. Why do you choose? How do you see the memory consumption in the device with Kubernetes? And how to justify that? So if iPro could make a comment about the rationale for using Kubernetes.
So for your reference, if I remember correctly, Docker runtime is not recommended from Kubernetes 1.20. Therefore, the Kubernetes and Docker should be separated completely. However, from the container runtime point of view, Containerd can be supported CRI, and CRIO can be supported CRI. Therefore, the deployment API should be CRI. And so the unification should be focused on the deployment API. And so the ecosystem may be separated in each company. Therefore, how about such a conclusion? So especially iPro strongly want to use the Kubernetes platform. Therefore, for sure, iPro is going to investigate by using the K3S.
Yeah, then it's clear if you already have selected the Kubernetes at iPro, and we are using, we are targeting partners as well that are doing Docker. We need to support both. That's a clear result, I think. But that also means that the reference implementation at Unimatrix would have to be Containerd. But you can swap Containerd to CRI when you make your product images.
But then we don't have a common container management.
No, we don't.
So it's not really a standard or anything. It's
It depends. Are we doing interoperability or are we standardizing an ecosystem? That's a governance question.
So what about a end user? So he has to support both.
And do you mean the one?
Yeah, let's say we have a mix of cameras. Some are Axis, some are iPro. Then there's two different APIs that the management software need to use. So it's
I was
No,
thinking
no.
the other way. If you have a big customer that is already has an orchestration system for all the products, and camera is just one hardware piece we are using in our bigger system, then we need to be compatible with what they have chosen. So it really depends from which perspective you look at it.
So, as I mentioned, so the development of API should be CRI, and so and in addition, so the difference about the difference. So we will prepare both of them. How do you feel?
I'm still missing a justification of using why you need Kubernetes. What is the use cases you need to solve?
So basically, so it's orchestration point of view. So the Kubernetes is expanded widely. In addition, so if we introduce the Kubernetes, so as you know, so we can save the security by using the container image. And so Ansible is needed to access to the camera via SSH. However, in case of Kubernetes, it's not needed. It iPro's point of view.
Yeah, but I mean, doesn't mean that Kubernetes is secure. I mean, it still could be attack vectors on that. I mean, SSH is not insecure in itself. It depends on how you set it up, of course. And I guess the same thing goes for Kubernetes.
So therefore, so in this meeting, so we expect you to explain the way of creating the security by using the SSH. Maybe you will present that thing after this.
Yeah, we have a presentation.
Okay.
I don't know if we can. Maybe we can do that one now then. Sriram, are you ready?
If it's reasonable, so iPro members might change their thinking.
Yes, Frederick, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this is a kind of high level overview of how we want to use Ansible to do some kind of management of a server. I have mentioned server as a generic term. It can be as a camera too, but the concept more or less I'm presenting here is quite as an overview. So typically the Ansible is installed on something like a workstation. It can be like a standard PC, or it can also be like a small Raspberry Pi with Ansible installed on it. And for the Ansible from workstation to manage the servers, the prerequisites that we see is servers needs to have an OpenSSH server installed, and the workstations will have the SSH clients and Ansible. So the typical way of logging in from Ansible into servers is with an SSH username password, or you use SSH key pair, the public private key pair. We made this presentation as a generic one, and the example is taken from how we say access some kind of a virtual machine from either an Azure or an AWS. More or less, the process remains same. So in any of the environments, you create a key pair using SSH keygen, and so you create a key pair on your workstation, and you copy the workstation public key onto the servers that you want to access. And yeah, the copying here can always be debated how you are actually copying it. You copy this like physically into a USB drive or put it into a server, or you use a copy ID and copy this into the server's authorized keys list. So that I don't think that can be debated much. Somehow the key has to be on the server, the public key on the server. And then we use the SSH to log into the server with the private key that we have, which is definitely private, and it has to remain on the workstation. And protecting that private key on the workstation definitely is a responsibility of whoever is trying to manage the servers. And the example command that I have given how Ansible tries to do is Ansible with -key file as a private key that is available on the workstation, with -i option as the server's list. So maybe the I is a short form for inventory. In this case, the server's list of server 1, 2, 3 can be created like a list of cameras or list of servers that you want to maintain. And using the same private key, because we have copied our public key onto these servers, you can use Ansible with the key file as a private key and use the module called ping. The ping module here, though the name looks like the standard ICMP ping, the ping module of Ansible does a bit more than that. It tries to establish the SSH connection and kind of logs you into the machine. So this ping does a bit more than the standard network ping command. So that's how the SSH communication happens. And just to emphasize that from different examples that we have seen, most of the say admins who tries to do the Ansible way of managing servers on production servers, typically once you do the bootstrapping, you create a user, something like an Ansible user, with the possibility to kind of escalate its privileges to do some management level tasks. Otherwise, it always has some no basic privileges or basic permissions of what it can do as a user. So in such cases, the root can be disabled and the communication to the server can happen only with a specific user which we have created. So that's how this Ansible uses SSH communication to the servers, and it can be done through the root, or it can be done through a specific user whose private key are we using to access or reach that particular server. And once you have access to this, you can do pretty much all the standard management commands that you can do. Even copying this into the authorized keys, there is a module called authorized keys in Ansible module. So even this also can be done through Ansible. Yeah, and as we have discussed before, Ansible has a very wide array of modules for different use cases, depending on how we want to bootstrap or set up our cameras or servers. Probably we have to make a detailed step-by-step process of how we want to set this up as bootstrap, and then write playbooks and use appropriate Ansible modules in achieving that particular use case. Yeah, that's it from me.
That's all. We would like to know the way of saving the security after connecting the camera. So in this case, so if the integrator is a good guy, so it's no problem. However, so if integrator is bad guy, so maybe the user can enter the camera. And so, for example, so our expectation is, for example, so to disable the root user, like that.
Yeah, it is possible.
Therefore, so we would like to know.
Yeah, go ahead.
We would like to know. So, I know Axis allow the end users to access to the camera by via SSH. Therefore, so after the user access to the camera, so how does Axis save the security in the camera? So iPro prohibit the end user to access by using the telnet. The reason is the security after entering the camera can be saved. Therefore, so Apple's company security policy prohibit to access the camera via SSH. Therefore, so I would like to know the way of making the security in the camera by Axis.
I think SSH is not enabled by default in any of our cameras, but Frederick, correct me if I'm wrong. We should be in some kind of developer mode to be able to do an SSH into the camera on the field, or it is left to the users once we kind of give the camera to them.
I think it is possible to enable it even on, but the root user is not really root. It's just a name. That's the intention anyway. So the root is not a system root.
The root res and
I'm talking about in the HTTP domain. In I think in SSH we should not allow root. Only developer builds. Yeah.
Excuse me. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I have some comment. I think this presentation missing something because I'm trying assemble weeks ago. So I think if camera will run assemble, it need install Python, because if we don't install Python in the camera, assemble only can use the Ray module.
I'm sorry. Are you trying to install Ansible on the camera? We are not talking about installing Ansible on the camera.
My colleague mean if you want to interpret the command, we should support Python at first.
I think I mean assemble has two kind of node, control node and manage node. Control node is our workstation or our service, and the manage node is our camera, right?
Yes.
So we need to install assemble in control node, but in manage node we also need install Python, because if you don't install Python, the assemble cannot the assemble only can use the role model. This information can I will give you a link. I will give you a website. You can see this information.
I mean, ideally, I'm not sure if I'm in sync with your response. It's always Ansible is installed on the workstations, and the only connection to those servers can be through like a local connection or over an SSH connection. And you are not. I don't think Python is needed on those any of those nodes. We have tried this with our cameras, and our cameras did not have anything related to Python.
But
so maybe I'll have to go through the link that you have shown. But
you can see the link.
Done some simple HTTP connections and other things with Ansible over our cameras, and we were able to do that. So I'm surprised that you're saying cameras also need Python for Ansible to work on the cameras. Definitely on workstation where you're installing Ansible, that is needed. But I'm surprised if you say it is needed on the servers.
We can check official document later.
Yep.
So that's all.
I think that's the whole idea of using Ansible on workstations. We are not and that's how we have kind of not recommended to use Ansible on the cameras, because when you install Ansible, it tries to bring a lot of baggage, and with that, Python also comes in as more or less the base layer, and which none of us would really be wanting to do.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, back to you, Frederick.
Yes,
No.
so we only have 4 minutes left. So I would like to check with the Hikvision if you have any. We saw the presentation from iPro. Do you look into OpenCV as well? What are your requirements on OpenCV?
Yeah, I just listed the OpenCV API requirement, the specific API requirement, and do you want me to present it right
yes,
now?
go ahead.
But I'm connecting by using my phone. Maybe I just list five APIs. The first one is video IO model. It's video capture APIs. Maybe we should support the video capture class and several public member functions like the open release is opened, grab, like this kind of functions, but not all of the OpenCV definition APIs we should support. We just need open a video file or capturing since we just need to get frame from camera, so not need to support the file name like this kind of video capture functions. And the next one is a get set video capture properties. Maybe use these APIs to set the height of the frame and the width of the frames. And I think it's optional. And the last two one is image write. Use this API to save an image to maybe a JPG file. And the last one is resize. This function resize the image source down to the specified size. These APIs, I think we should support at first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all those functions basically in the video IO library and the core, right? What about additional libraries, stuff like object detection or edge detections or algorithms and I mean, basically this is for the developer, the third-party developer, what they can use to make an application easily.
You mean support the algorithm APIs?
Yeah, which algorithms in OpenCV are we only interested in using OpenCV as a video API, not for processing of images, or like so that's my question.
What do you mean? The images? You mean image analysis?
Yeah, I mean, with OpenCV, you can do a lot of processing of like finding objects or improving the image or things like that. Is so.
From my point of view, we only support our own landlord inference backend. Yes, we will not support the OpenCV standard image process APIs.
Okay, thank you for your input. So we're a little bit over time now, so maybe we can continue the discussion. I think next time regarding OpenCV, I'll bring up a Docker file which builds OpenCV. We can more have a look at specific which build flags to enable, because this enables different features that ultimately goes into the library. And of course, the more you enable, the bigger it gets. And so. But so I'll prepare some presentation for the next telco about that. So is there any other business?
So in addition, so please add the agenda about the security after entering the camera.
Sorry?
So please add the agenda so about the security. About so accessing the camera after accessing the camera internal security.
Yeah, you mean you want the presentation?
No. The Sriram-san's presentation is just the connection about SSH, right? So yeah. We would like to know the a way of making the security in the camera. So the internal camera part is revealed to the end users. Therefore, so how does access save the security in the camera? For example, rootless, the directory limitation, like that. Do you understand?
No, I don't understand. Anyway, I think this is
okay. Probably... I will send the email to you later.
Okay. Also, please fill in. There is a questionnaire in the link to a questionnaire in the agenda. So please fill in the questionnaire after the meeting. And regarding next meeting, so what about in 2 weeks' time? Is that during your holiday in iPro?
Until August 16th.
Okay, so 18th should be okay.
18th, CB call is planned.
Yeah, but it's the same day, the CC call, but that's we do have it at the same time. Let's see.
No. Anyway, 18th, it looks like I have a small vacation. So can we say either the 17th or the week after, the 25th?
So I will not receive the the invitation from Jen-san yet. Therefore, so if the time period is different between TV call and CB call, so it's okay.
The time is different, but Fredrik, your suggestion was to have it on the 17th instead.
Yeah, either that or on the 25th, the week after. Because the 18th is not possible for me.
So is everyone available the 17th of August? If no protest, I could make a reservation that day for
17. April is okay.
Okay.
Okay, then if there's no protest, we'll book that one.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.